Hello. I think this is working. Seems to be working. Welcome to this first stream of this game called The Other Side. I mean, that's the working title. I'm going to be sort of explaining what this project is and what I'm trying to be doing with it, basically. And I'm going to, I guess, go over some of the systems that I'm working on right now and go over, sort of what my plan is for this week. Let me know if the sound is working correctly or if things need to be louder or less loud or whatever. Yeah, I'm mostly sort of like trying to get into streaming to give myself a bit of a regular schedule and those kind of things. And yeah, so this is The Other Side. Let's have a look at the demo that I have right now. Hi, Respotting. Thank you. So yeah, this is The Other Side. I was working on a little sound that you would have once you tap the screen. And that sound needs to be sort of improved, I think, but it'll do for now. So the idea of this game is that it's all based on sort of sliding characters around, or sliding anything around. There we go. And you place the character on those sort of moving tiles that you can see here. And the idea is that everything is sort of constantly looping, moving about like this. And you kind of need to sort of find your way. So it's a bit of a like simple puzzle game. And you will encounter like different characters over time as well. That's sort of the idea, and you end up sort of solving things kind of like in a Rubik's Cube fashion, where you need to slide things along different sort of rows and columns and that kind of stuff. Yeah. And that's sort of how you complete these levels. This is sort of reinforcing what you learned in the previous level. It's mostly about like sort of trying to match up or trying to get like two tiles, which are the two characters, next to each other onto those specific tiles. So yeah. Respotting is asking, is the player helping ghosts find their way to the other side? Yeah, I'm not quite sure yet for the story about the story, but I think that is sort of like a general starting point. Is like, yeah, you're helping these little characters sort of reach whatever they need to be reaching, and sometimes, or in my thoughts at least, the idea would be that the characters don't necessarily know yet what they need to be reaching or something like that. So for instance, I was just imagining this character to be the main character and like not really knowing what they're planning to do or like what they need to be doing or anything. They're kind of lost, and over time they figure out what their goal is, kind of. And maybe I was imagining that other characters were like actually not really lost, but they still had like something that they need to be doing before they can sort of pass on or whatever. It's not quite developed in that regard yet. It's quite early days. I really wanted to focus on the game mechanics and the game feel, generally speaking. So that, because as you can imagine, this is going to be a mobile game, and mobile games really need that sort of like first impact. Like, how do you call it? You need the sort of, when you see it and when you interact with it, it all like feels good first and foremost. And yeah, so that's why I'm sort of focusing on this part for now. So at some points you will encounter tiles that have like funny interactions, like this sort of spinning screw tile, which is moving this other tile. You can see that there's like some weird sorting problems happening over here. That's something that I kind of wanted to figure out actually today, sort of solve. And once you have reached this, or once you've screwed this tile in, it just becomes a regular tile and becomes usable like a normal tile. So there are some weird bugs, like what you can see over here, where the line goes into the water, and you're not really supposed to sort of be moving that way. So I need to, I don't know, like figure out that as an edge case, and it's a pain, but that's life. And I'm trying to sort of, because I'm working on a demo right now, I am kind of looking to circumvent these problems, sort of work around them rather than solve them, because it's going to take me a lot of time, and I need to make sure that this demo is sort of, that I can send this demo to various people and stuff. So yeah, this is a bit of a more just I don't know, I'm not quite happy with this level. I think there are some interesting parts to it, but I find that aesthetically it's kind of weird and all over the place. So I would need to solve that as well at some point. But hi, Global Villager. Global Villager is the person who did the music for this demo, and it's really sick. And you should follow him. So yeah, that's sort of like where this level is at. I still need to, find something better to do with that. I have some trouble with the tiles as well, the sort of screwy tiles that I'm trying to like avoid currently. And so these are new tiles as well, the sort of teleportation tiles, so you can sort of teleport from one part of the level to the other. And this level is supposed to sort of teach you, like, oh, depending on the direction that you're moving, the teleportation is happening differently. So you end up sort of looping back through the same, the same hole, basically, the same sort of teleportation black hole. So story-wise, for this demo, I was thinking like, oh, it would be really funny if like the second character who sort of disappears at some point sort of comes back, but visually is sort of being displayed as like a third character. Respotting is saying, I wonder if you might need to add a sort of completion jingle or sort of rewarding sound effects for finishing a level. Yeah, that's a really, really good idea, I think. Just slightly reward the player a bit more than a fade transition to the next level. Yeah, so I definitely need a sort of you did it sound effects. We haven't had much time yet to sort of look into more sound stuff, or sort of adding a bit more, dressing the sort of level transitions up a bit more, but I definitely think that it would be good to sort of do that for this demo. This is a sneaky ghost that sort of appears. So what's actually happening here, I'll just show you real quick in the editor, is there's actually like a little section over here with two little portals that sort of that the characters like end up on when they're going through the portal here. So they're just like over here. I thought it was kind of funny to sort of play around with that and do some surprising things and end up sort of hiding things like that in there. Respotting is saying that the game looks a bit spooky but still relaxing and cute and fun. I think, thank you, that makes me really happy because that's sort of what I was aiming for. So yeah, I think that's where the demo sort of ends, and you end up with this little screen sort of explaining where the game is at, and then when you tap, it sort of starts the demo from scratch again. So I think, yeah, that's basically where this is at. I guess I need to sort of, what I was hoping to do with this streaming is sort of get back to, like, try to figure out what the thing is missing and where to go next and those kind of things. And so, yeah, I think overall, like, the sort of end of level flourishes and those kind of things are, whoa, what is that sound effect? I don't know what that was. Oh, some people have been following. Thank you. Thank you, Mygazi and Respotting, for following. Yeah, so I'm just overall going to look into sort of what kinds of things are missing for this demo before I can sort of like send it over to various people. It means we're following, says my Gassy. Thank you both for following me and for explaining what the sound effect was. Yeah, so I think like something that you could see was that first sound effect when you click is a bit sort of misses a bit of punch, so I'm gonna write that down, like open level SFX. And something I also wanted to do is sort of add a bit of vibration to so every time you hear this little sound effect, it sort of vibrates the device, and I think it would be good if that also happens at the start. So Global Villager says, I'm back from Japan, ready to get back to work as soon as possible. That's really cool. Don't feel pressured. We should talk a bit more about that after the stream, if you have time, or later on tomorrow maybe. Glad you're back. So yeah, what else? Oh yeah, so one thing that is sort of happening right now as well in the game that I can sort of show off is there's a color palette setter. I'm just gonna mute the sound because it's hard to concentrate. Maybe it's a bit too loud on my end actually. So there's like this color palette system. As you can see over here, actually the entire game is being rendered in CMYK. So we have like the cyan channel, the magenta channel, and the yellow channel that are sort of being used for various color effects. And the whole idea is that I really wanted to make sure that it's very modular, so I can sort of change anything that is supposed to be cyan to like a different color really easily, or I can do things like change what is quote-unquote the paper color like so, really straightforward straightforwardly, sort of working with it as if it were how do you call it, like screen printing basically, and have like various layers of color. So we also have like a background color layer that sort of doesn't get updated directly, I think. But yeah, you have sort of like various channels you can play around with. And I wanted to sort of keep this as modular as possible, so I'm using a system where you can create color palettes and sort of switch between them really easily, and create new ones quite straightforwardly. And one thing that I still really want to do is sort of dress up some of those levels. So every 2 levels or something, you would have like a new color palette or something, so that it keeps the interest, or keeps the space interesting and vibrant. Basically, it doesn't get too boring too quickly. So it's kind of already doing that right now, but I kind of want to have some more variation in there, and like have some levels that are, or like some more varied tile sets as well. So currently we have the sort of rooftop tile set, but I kind of want to make sure that we also can easily switch this up to be like maybe a third or maybe even a fourth sort of tile set. Like for instance over here, it's kind of weird to sort of be coming back to the forest tile set, and I think it would be better to have like a third one at this place. So I'm gonna write down like a third tile set. Third tile set. So that's something that I really want to focus on. I also sort of like played around with placing this second character, the like tall one, to always be in a place where if you're interacting with the thing the way I am, which is probably not going to be the case, then you always end up with this character not really doing much. So like unless you sort of interact with the world and things change. But I thought it was kind of funny that that character is sort of not really doing much by default, and sort of like simple, very basic storytelling. Like the characters over here, you're interacting with the spinny wheel, but this character is not really doing much. And I thought like there are easy ways of doing like very simple storytelling if that happens to read or something, that might sort of participate in the character being like giving the character a bit more personality through gameplay as well. So yeah, and over here, like the other character sort of disappears. And at this point, we're in this rainy zone, and we have this new game mechanic that appears. And I think like it would be really cool to have like a fourth tile set over here. Like a different sort of environment that I could sort of show off, but the fact that the color palette has shifted so much kind of already participates in it being quite different. So potentially it doesn't really need like a fourth tile set, because that's a lot of sort of overhead or things that I need to figure out for that to work. I'm wondering like, so this tile set works kind of okay with the how do you call it, with the sort of black hole system, but it also kind of works well with the sort of screw system, and so maybe I can keep that tile set for this part and then use a different one for the starting levels. I can show you what it looks like if I switch that tile set around. There's one that I have that is sort of ready to be used, but isn't being used right now. So maybe I can just like switch it up and sort of see what it feels like. So we have the underwater tile set here. Just gonna save. So the underwater tile set doesn't have a so the when I load up this level, you can see that there's all this water part. Whoa, another sound effect. I'm gonna switch to this app and see what is happening. Oh, someone followed me. Thank you for following me. That's really nice of you. Yeah, so in this level, we have these sort of water tiles here. And I haven't set those up for the sort of underwater tile set yet. So I need to sort of make that. I should probably write that down. So underwater. So I call those multi-obstacle or multi-tile obstacles. So there we go. So if I, for instance, switch out this tile set for the underwater tile set, I'm not sure what it's going to look like. It's probably going to be somewhat broken. Yeah, this doesn't quite make sense. So you can see sort of like coral style pieces over here, but with these sort of like above the water tiles around. So that doesn't quite work as well. But maybe that's an easy win, at least in terms of like having a new tile set, because that one is just not used yet in the demo right now. So yeah, both of those really need those like multi-tile things. Respotting is saying you could also have characters that move around on a timer, so sometimes they'll move to a different spot, which means you'll have to be aware of your surroundings more than simply scrolling until it works. Yeah, I think that could be really cool. I was thinking of something where you'd have sort of every time you move tiles, you'd have like sort of whatever you, every time you sort of interact with the game, as soon as you release your finger, you would have some sort of enemy type character or whatever do something funny, like sort of maybe switch around a tile with another one or those kinds of things, and sort of add in like a second state to things, and like, oh, you have to sort of play around with like oh, am I sort of like, yeah, sort of you need to sort of it gives a bit of a tempo or something like that, and might sort of add a lot of depth as well. But that's not for right now because I really need to focus on this little demo first. But there are lots of ways in which I can possibly extend this, all of which are probably going to add a lot of more work to making this demo work, or making this game. One other thing that I really want to try is like have a sort of enemy type character that always moves in the opposite direction. So if you're moving this way, the enemy would move in this way. But it causes a lot of issues with what happens when both lines move into each other, those kinds of things. And there are lots of edge cases that I need to solve with this, which probably means that the logic behind how the tiles are moving right now is just not as solid, or could probably be better. Yeah, I mean, I'm not in production yet, so that's just part of how games are made, I think. I hope. Yeah, so okay, so possibly this could be the underwater tile set. What would that mean? I guess, yeah, I'm not quite sure. So story-wise, oh yeah, so another thing that I can show is I have a system for narrative scenes that still requires a bit of work. So this is one of those narrative scenes. You essentially have like, you scroll from left to right, and it's basically like a comic book strip or something where it switches between, it's basically playing like an animation, where all these panels sort of appear over time, and that could help with some storytelling. Oh, the character is missing its body. That's interesting. Oh well. Probably need to set that up again. Yeah, sort of the general idea is that this could help with some simple storytelling. I might use this to sort of also display some text or something. So for instance, you would be scrolling up until this point and there would be a little text box appearing where it would explain some stuff to the player. Yeah, and then when you click this, it would bring you to like the next level. The problem I'm having right now with this is that people are having trouble understanding that you need to scroll from left to right over here. So I need to sort of signpost that a bit more clearly. And it also just requires a lot of manual sort of setup and those kind of things. Like the scenes in this are quite messy. Like this is one scene, then there is this scene, and all of these sort of like animate in different ways, or this is another scene, and so on basically. And like it kind of works, but I feel like it just adds a lot of manual setup basically. Acheron is asking, what is up? I'm good. I'm just sort of explaining or going through like the various systems that are in this game right now. And this is sort of the narrative part of like how the game is working. And yeah, so I'm not sure if I'm going to include any narrative sequences in this demo because it requires so much time. Yeah, that's basically where things are at. And I think, yeah, so what should we be focusing on right now? I'm not quite sure yet. Like, basically, I sort of, where I'm at right now is I've sort of completed the main parts that I really needed to build for this demo. So most of those parts are sort of there, but could, like, all of them could definitely be improved or become better. And I just need to figure out like where to put my time so that it's like the most effective. That's basically game development, right? It's like, where are you going to focus your like energy and attention on? So one thing that we noticed that sort of happens quite often is in level 6. Level 6. In this level, there was this scenario that happens quite often. As soon as I want to move this character, we end up seeing this bug. So what if we change that into something that is not as buggy? So basically, as I was saying earlier, I'm going to simply try to circumvent this bug for now and not really fix it, simply because I think this problem is quite a bit more complex than what I can do this week, and I really want to have this demo up on test flight by the end of this week, which is in 2 days. So yeah, For now, I'm just going to sort of move some tiles around, see if I end up with a scenario where we don't have as many sort of bugs showing up all the time. I yet need to find a second screen for my computer, so it's really tough to sort of see what is going on. Thank you for following Tahiti Pancake. That sounds delicious. And that's very good. That's a great name. Okay, so let's see. Turn this off. Okay, so now I can show you also how the level system works. So levels are XML files that are being generated in Tiled. So XML files, exactly. And if I show an Explorer and open it with Tiled, you can see that this is what the level looks like when I'm editing it. And basically, sort of, I have a very simple system where you essentially sort of draw things on here, and that then becomes like all set up in Engine. So it's all just like loading that text file and placing things that are part of the tile set that are in here. And so you have variants, and you have like my really dumb and simple system of like, oh, I want more trees number 2 than tree number 1, so I just add it twice in the list of objects here, and those kind of things. I think that works well enough. And yeah, so what we're going to do is sort of quickly change some of the background elements here. So what happens is, like, these tiles, when there's no real exit for the character, like if the path doesn't resolve properly, the line will just sort of like end wherever it is, thinking that it's the end. And like normally it should sort of do some more thinking or do some more logic and sort of figure out where to turn next. And I just need to figure out what that sort of scenario is, and I haven't really done that yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove this part for now. Whoop. There we go. Just remove all of this and just fill it with this for now, and just add some more tiles like so. Whoa. Okay. Then let's see. My one problem with this system is that I need to find, or like I need some sort of guidelines as to what the level limits are. And for now, that's quite unclear. Like I basically don't really know how this tiled editor works. Like I think a lot of people are probably way better at doing things with this. But it works for where I'm at for now, basically. So I'm quite happy to be using this, as I need to go quite fast. So press and play. So this looks like butts, but it works. Like it's not as broken basically in terms of gameplay, because it's not sort of like getting stuck behind things as it was before. Maybe this was a bit too drastic in terms of change. Like there are too many trees here. Don't quite know like what is going on. It's a bit messy, but at least, like, as you could see, the sort of iteration time is quite fast. Like it allows me to really quickly just sort of change things and see if this works any better, and those kinds of things. It's quite like easy to work with. So this might be a funny thing as well, like if it's just empty, but it's kind of hard to tell what is actually moving in this scenario. That's maybe a bit too much. Maybe we can add this part back in and see if that causes any problems. So let's see. Yeah, I'm just sort of like iteratively going over this level right now, or going over how to make this level feel okay. And I'm not really caring for yeah, I'm mostly just trying to make it feel correct. So this works. That's interesting. Press R to reload the level. So if I just move this one, like in this scenario, the character doesn't seem to sort of bug out as much. I think it was like the scenario that we had earlier, which was, let's just go back all the way to the start. In this scenario, we had way more sort of bugs appearing. Respotting says you could have a layer that only counts as non-interactable background layer to solve this issue. So I do have like a background elements layer here, and I have like a static elements layer as well. So static elements is the sort of end of level triggers. Background elements is basically everything that doesn't move ever. And the only problem that I'm encountering with this right now is that it's just a question of how do I handle those scenarios basically in the game. Let's see. So yeah, it's just a question of sort of figuring out how to like what to do with those tiles and those kind of things. I also haven't quite figured out how to sort things by layer or something like that, or yeah, it's all sort of a bit shaky right now, the whole like integration between Tiled and the game that I'm making. But hopefully I can sort that out quite quickly. So if what we were testing was like, what if we add this back in? Why was this broken? So I guess what is going on is that I'm not quite sure. It seems like it doesn't have enough room or something. Like if I were just moving this like so, like basically it sort of hits this as an obstacle and then hits this as an obstacle and goes around. But if this weren't here, then there is no obstacle here and it just like resolves properly. So maybe I can just sort of yeah, maybe I can just for now just simply fill this in like so. Whoops. Yeah, it's a very messy approach, mostly because I have no idea what I'm doing. But it kind of does the job for now. Again, like I'm currently just barely in pre-production, I suppose. Like the whole idea is that what my intention is that like I'm trying to sort of build this version of the game that you can easily understand, that looks the way like the intended way, that feels interesting enough for people to like hopefully be interested in helping me publish this, basically, or be interested in helping me bring this to people. And for now, yeah, that's basically it. I'm not sure like how long I can work on this without funding, so I'm hopefully going to find some people who would be willing to help me out with some stuff. And it's also like I literally don't know how to do publishing or anything, or how to do PR type stuff, or like having to talk to platform holders and those kind of things. Like that's all pretty new to me, and hopefully this game will sort of help me figure that part out. So I think just removing this part, or like the water on this side, seems to have cleared the problem right now. Like the level feels better, while still having this sort of striking detail here of the water and like moving around and those kind of things. I wonder if I can also like put some water over here, maybe. Like we don't really need this part of the level, but I'm worried that that will just like further break everything. We can give it a try. Let's see what happens when we do that. And if it doesn't work out, then we can just like revert things. Just trying to load this page at the same time. All right, so background elements. There we go. And erase these parts. So yeah, I'm really happy with how quickly I can iterate on levels through this. I have had way worse scenarios. So that's a problem. Somehow, like if I try to scroll diagonally up, that's where we end up with sort of issues here. I guess I'm gonna leave this over here and sort of call it a day for this level. But yeah, as you can see, like I really need to solve this problem and sort of figure out like what the game is supposed to do. I think in this scenario, rather than like actually moving like this, like maybe the game could actually, you could sort of have the tiles, rather than like moving off screen like it does over here, it would actually create circles. Like it would sort of move in a circular manner. That might actually be quite interesting and sort of end up with some pretty cool puzzle opportunities as well. Basically right now I'm sort of dealing with, the game is quite obtuse. Like as a sort of game mechanic, it can be quite hard to really understand what is going on. But I'm hoping to sort of play to that as a strength rather than like a thing to iron out. I want to keep it a bit mysterious and a bit like you don't fully understand what is going on, but over time you'll start to sort of understand the idiosyncrasies of this system. Basically, that's something that I really want to sort of use in this game. Yeah, so that's sort of the plan, basically. One other thing that I really want to do is give a sort of bigger effect to the tiles, the sort of end of level tiles that you have here. So when you load up the game or the level, rather than just being the way it is right now, it would come in with a bit of an effect or something. So I'm just going to write that down as well, like effect for end of level tiles. I think that would sort of help with readability and just understanding what you need to be doing. Just the fact that the tiles here would be sort of highlighted or something like that. That might sort of help as well. So yeah, I'm gonna revert this piece of water here, just so that it looks less bad. And another thing that I sort of noticed is that there are lots of trees in front of the characters here. So I'm just gonna sort of prune those trees and just add them to the side here, because I think trees add a lot of make the space more interesting. I just need to make sure that it's not in the way of readability. Maybe we can just add a fern here. Yeah, I really like this sort of going back and forth between the sort of level editor and the level here. It's just really, it loads up so fast, and because of the sort of random rotation that you get from the various like objects, it all feels I think interesting enough quite quickly. Basically there's a lot of sort of procedural things happening with the way the graphics are set up, and that helps creating sort of interest, I hope. Another thing that I kind of want to try is actually make a how do you call it, a you have to make sure you have to sort of do a Rubik's Cube style thing where you would actually have to, I don't know how to do Rubik's Cubes. Yeah, you'd have to sort of move the tiles around and try to get like sort of a square or whatever made out of certain visual elements like this. And sort of just play around with, oh, it's literally just a Rubik's Cube, but could be interesting. So there we go, managed to make a square. And I think just like having a sort of endless mode where you're sort of cleaning up the environment might be a fun sort of endless mode that you could unlock in the game after having completed the story, because that could just be randomly generated. That could just be like I'm just placing random things in this on the screen that you can move around, and that just would just work, I think. Yeah, that's about it in terms of things that I wanted to sort of show off for this first stream. If you have any questions or anything, like, really don't hesitate. You can reach out and sort of send me an email or a message or whatever. And yeah, I'm just gonna, like, for the sake of showing or sort of being thorough, I'm just going to show what the game looks like right now, as I did at the start of the stream, because obviously like some people have maybe jumped in or those kind of things. So I'm just gonna like sort of walk through this one more time, just for the sake of showing it off. And yeah, over time I'll hopefully sort of build up a regular schedule of streaming this game and those kind of things. So Tahiti Pancake is saying, I'm really interested by the implementation of Tiled. I'm going to try to make a small thing with it. If I'm stuck, I'll reach out. Yes, please do. I don't know much about it, but it's quite simple. It's basically sort of, you can handle those files using essentially XML logic and those kind of things. So I can just really quickly sort of show you. So for instance, the title screen is like looks like this inside of the file. and you just have a bunch of numbers. And essentially what I do is per number I just say like, oh, it's number 57, that means that we need this kind of tile. Or it's like, oh, it's number 11, it means that I need to sort of do this and this with it. And that's just sort of how I'm sort of handling it. Like I have these tile set assets that are literally just like lists of prefabs, a name, and a tile value. And I just read the tile value from the XML file and decide if I need to spawn a prefab of this kind or another kind. I think it works quite nicely, at least for me it does. And I like not having much in my scenes as well like this. It just feels very sort of easy to make new levels. Yeah, so let me just quickly show you the game again. So this is the sort of opening screen that you would have, and you click, you place a little sound effect that is sort of temporary right now that I'm going to be working on a bit, and then you move the character onto this sort of sparkly tile. So one thing, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that that sparkly tile is not like being covered in like when you load up the level. Yeah. So you move the character onto that tile, and that's sort of how you progress through the thing. Respotting says sliding puzzle or sliding block puzzle is probably the term you were looking for. Yes, it would be really cool if you would, for example, lock the door and the player would have to solve the sliding puzzle by putting something together. Yeah, I think that would be really, really cool to sort of play around with, just having sort of a varied amount of ways to sort of like obstacles for the player to sort of overcome in the various levels. Yeah, it might be really cool to sort of just have to line up a bunch of things like that. Yeah, and so in this level you can sort of see that you can sort of start to notice that things are looping across the sort of screen edges, and you can sort of see that you can change like axis like this. Yeah, then you sort of move on, encounter a second character, and then that's where you sort of start to like have to puzzle around and sort of move things around so that you can sort of line up the two characters onto the correct tiles. And this sort of reinforcing or like reinforcing what you learned, and again reinforcing what you learned, but this time around it's a bit more sort of involved, is sort of the idea. And here we introduce a new game mechanic, which is this spinny tile. Once you reach the bottom, it sort of like stops spinning this tile, and now it just becomes a regular sort of tile like this. Whoop. Like so. And over here it's sort of like showing, it's mostly like for the demo, sort of showcasing the kinds of things that you could do with the spinny tiles or with this interaction system, and things like, oh, it's starting to rain and the color palette has shifted, and at the end of like having screwed that entire thing out or in, then the entire level just becomes like just an open field basically, which I thought was kind of funny. Like the entirety of the puzzle basically disappears. Here is like another game mechanic that is sort of functional right now, which is like these teleportation tiles, and they're directional. So this level sort of shows off that depending on the direction in which you're moving, you're sort of you can sort of reach different places, basically. And over here we get to see like another character sort of show up. And this is sort of like a combination of various things that you've already learned through the game. And then that's it. That's the demo. And then it sort of shows this little text of like, hey, thank you for playing, blah, 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 all that. Yeah, that's about it for what is in this demo right now. And I think that will do it for this sort of inaugural stream. So I think like I'll probably stream a bit later in the day. Not today, but like in the future when I start to like build a bit of a schedule. But I'm hoping to make this a regular thing. And yeah, again, like don't hesitate to sort of reach out if you have any questions or anything. Thank you for watching, and see you some other time. Thank you. Bye, everyone.